The wife accused her husband of cheating, and her family physically attacked him and ruined his whole life. After the truth comes out, she wants reconciliation. My husband 35M, and I 30F married for 8 years have been separated for the last 14 months, and I need help and advice on how to rekindle our relationship. We are currently not on speaking terms, and all our arrangements go through our lawyers, but I will have an opportunity over Christmas to clear the air and set things straight, as he will be flying in from Sydney to spend time with the kids. So what happened? I received a Facebook message in September last year that my husband was talking and exchanging naked photos with other women on Tinder. We spoke on the phone for a bit, and the only proof she had was a screenshot of their conversations and his profile. Long story short, I downloaded Tinder and found his profile, with his location less than 1 km away. I was convinced that he was cheating, and we had a terrible fallout that evening, which led to my family coming over to calm the situation. But instead, it escalated when my brother punched and grabbed hold of my husband. The neighbors called the police, and my husband was asked to pack a few things and stay elsewhere for a while. We separated shortly after, and he has since moved to Sydney to be closer to his ailing father, but sees our kids for a weekend twice a month. Fast forward to the beginning of November this year, and my neighbor rocked up at my doorstep to tell me that her husband was catfishing women on dating apps using my husband's photos. He downloaded these photos from a MacBook that we lent him during COVID, and some of these photos were of an intimate nature and of me. The police are currently dealing with this. All of this has been relayed to my husband through his lawyer, but his response has been lukewarm, and he said we could talk about it over Christmas. I am so scared that we might be down too far in the rabbit hole, and that he will likely push for a divorce, even though I know that we love each other deeply. But this took a massive toll on our mental health, finances, and the well-being of our 3 kids. What is the best way to approach him in December and make amends? TLDR. A neighbor used his husband's photos to catfish women on Tinder for naked photos. My husband and I separated because I thought he was cheating. The neighbor's wife told me what her husband did. Police are investigating. Some comments. Your husband experienced something that you will never understand. A false accusation. An assault from your brother. Spousal alienation. There is no right of recourse against the false accusation. A complete lack of loyalty from his wife. A complete lack of respect from his wife. The loss of the life he had from a false allegation. Parental alienation from his children. Familial alienation from his in-laws. Alienation from friends. The police were called, and he had to leave. You separated from him. Your husband has already completed his grieving process. You ask, are you too far down the rabbit hole? Yes, I am afraid there is no going back for you. You chose not to listen to him when he said it was not him. I agree. I don't think there's coming back from that. I understand you had reasons to believe he might be cheating, but it seems he had no chance to defend himself, and getting your family involved made everything even worse. He was punched and told to leave his house by the police, has been living away from his kids for the past 14 months, and has been treated as a villain by friends. You say you love him, but I don't think love could erase everything you two have been through and rebuild trust. Oh, and here's another thought. Perhaps reach out to any and all of his old friends, make sure they all know the truth. OP, try to salvage what you can for him. But I think the way things happened would have been very damaging. To be clear, I'm not blaming you for wanting to leave when you had clear proof from your perspective at the time that he had cheated. It's a reasonable reaction, but the way it took place seems so insanely violent and dramatic. You two got screwed over, not just by your neighbor, but also by your brother. Punching someone is never acceptable. It would have been a sucky and inappropriate reaction, even if your husband had in fact cheated. Now imagine how your husband must have felt, considering it was entirely unwarranted. Being married means being part of a shared family. The fact that your family got in the middle of it and bodily hurt him would make anyone think twice about getting back in. If you really work hard on mending those bridges, if you ensure everyone takes stock and is accountable for their mistakes, and that includes your brother, then you might rebuild your relationship. But it will most probably take time. Damn, you two really got effed over by your SHTTY neighbor. I feel bad for both of you and your kids. I get why you believed he was cheating, and I get why he might not want to rekindle the relationship. What an all-around crappy situation. This sub. Cheaters are the worst. Leave someone who cheats on you. Don't give them a second chance. Don't let them lie to and manipulate you. Also, this sub. OP is the devil because she couldn't divine that this clear-cut case of cheating was instead a highly unlikely series of events that resulted in her husband's private photos on an active Tinder account in her direct vicinity and proof of that account engaging with women. Like what the SHT, my dudes. Both OP and her husband got effed over hard by this pos neighbor, who is now dealing with the police. It's very uncool that SHT got physical, but otherwise, OP did what one would expect of her. They're both victims. If OP came on here and laid out the evidence before the truth came to light, none of the users SHTing on her now would have been like, talk to him. Maybe your neighbor borrowed your computer, stole his photos, and is elaborately catfishing people from 10 feet away. Hey, tough one. Here's a thought though. Perhaps focus your efforts and intention, not on getting back together, but 100% on uneffing this whole thing up for him. Imagine all the things that he lost, all the people whose opinions of him changed, everyone you ever spoke to and told about his infidelity, and everyone they spoke to. Every single little embarrassment, every indignity that happened to him, what your family said and did that would have hurt every colleague, every other parent from school, then bank manager, real estate people, every single person that got the wrong idea, and correct them. Own your mistake, position it as your failure to believe him, and rebuild his reputation. Then set about correcting the tangible harm done, the financial losses, the physical harm, and the struggle you put him through. Consider each and everything that must have been sucked for him. And then of course, the biggest thing, the kids. You were swindled, without doubt. But despite your innocence in terms of intent, your actions still caused great harm and were negligent. Think manslaughter, not murder. Either way, you pay for the harm committed, whether the intent was there or not. Focus all of your attention on making him as close to whole as possible. If you do this, there will be one of two outcomes. He still does not forgive you, and if this is the case, then you will have helped fix the life and reputation of an innocent man, and you can look yourself and your children in the face and honestly say that although you made a terrible mistake, you did everything you could to make it right. Or he will see the sincerity which you better have, because he will know if you are trying to seduce him into rekindling the relationship, and he will begin the process of forgiving you for your part in what happened to him. All I can say is that you had better demonstrate an absolute 100% siding with him as it relates to your family publicly and otherwise, and you will have to be patient. He will get triggered by something this traumatic from time to time, irrespective of your efforts and his forgiveness. If you truly want to get square with him, then you may find yourself apologizing for many years to come. You may find yourself having to wear unprovoked fits of rage, unprovoked fits of depression, and separation from your family at yearly milestones. Your commitment to him, and to the cause of making him whole again, will be what determines if any civil relationship, let alone a romantic one, is possible. Oh, and one final thing. You had better be upfront with him about any relationships or nights with other men. He will want to know, and if you deceive him at all when asked, then you are completely effed. If you are to salvage this, then sincerity and honesty are the only ways to truly achieve it. Chin up there. It is possible. I had some friends who separated for almost 2 years. Neither were with anyone else, but they have managed to find their way back together, and some 3 years later, they welcomed a second child into their family. So there is hope. I sincerely hope to hear a positive update in 6 months. You and your family are back together again, and making great progress on his PTSD. And yes, your romance is blossoming. Wow, what a mess. I'm glad the police were involved in what that neighbor did. As for you and your husband, a lot is going to depend on two things. How much do you both really love each other? How difficult it is for you both to have a truly serious, heart-wrenching, emotionally exhausting conversation. His logical side will likely understand why you thought it was true after all. There were pictures. It would be easy to believe it was true. But his emotional side is going to be deeply hurt that you didn't believe him over the evidence. All you can do is sit down and try to work through it. Good luck to you. OP replies. Thank you. I thought having a therapist present might help, but I have doubts and think it is better not to involve others. The aftermath was devastating for us both, and more so for him when his friends and my family wrote him off. I still love him and have never stopped, but I know it will be on his terms if he is willing to give it another chance. I am willing to do whatever it takes. What have you done to make amends and clear his name? Have you notified his friends and family that he was falsely accused and had been faithful the entire time? Has your family apologized? Have his friends reached out and apologized? Take a look at the definitions of regret, that this happened, and remorse for the pain you caused him. I don't hear or feel remorse in your words, and I don't see remorse in your actions. Update. Hello everyone. I have had quite a few people ask for an update on what happened after we discovered that my neighbor was using my ex's photos to catfish other women. Unfortunately, after having sat down and discussed things, it was decided that our marriage was beyond repair and that we should go our separate ways. He is currently in therapy and has requested that we have a clean break with no further contact in the future. I intend to respect his wishes and will continue to communicate through his lawyer on matters that concern our kids. I have since cleared the air with our families and friends and am still actively working towards repairing his reputation. I would also like to clarify the assault and why my parents came over in the first place. The night of the argument, I called my mother to ask if I could drop off our kids and if they could spend the evening there, but she was concerned about my emotional state and asked that I stay put and they would come to fetch the kids instead. They arrived, and my brother opted to stay outside while my parents came inside to grab the kids and their bags. At this point, my father asked me to talk to my ex and calm the situation, and my mom dragged me away to get the kids and their bags ready. My brother was very confused when we came outside and was triggered by my mom saying that my ex might have cheated. My brother reacted the moment my ex walked out and grabbed my arm in a non-violent way, leading to the punch and scuffle on the front lawn. He was remorseful and apologized even before we found out my ex was not to blame. It is a series of unfortunate events that have changed many lives and robbed my family of our love and happiness. Now I have to focus on my kids, my depression, and coming to terms with the divorce. I will never forget, but hopefully the pain won't be as intense. Some comments. Well, things went way too far, and I can very much understand why your husband left. I would seriously consider cutting your brother out of your life for a while, and also really considering your reaction to this, and how it all went terribly wrong. That poor guy. He loses his marriage, his kids get assaulted, and his whole life turns upside down. My heart hurts for him. I can't imagine the grief and angst he's gone through. I remember the original post to this, and I predicted that your ex-husband wouldn't rekindle this. Too much damage has been done. You call it a scuffle on the front lawn. I mean, he was assaulted by your brother. I am praying for your ex, and I hope you can heal from this. Second story. OP's 15-year-old is pregnant, and OP doesn't know how to reveal that his older daughter is actually her biological mother. So me 53M and my wife Rose 53F had our older daughter Sarah 31F when we were 22. We were young and broke, but we managed, and now we raise Sarah the best we can. She got pregnant at 15. It was a very depressing time for her. She had to go to therapy and never told us anything about the father, which always upset her, so we never pushed the issue. She originally wanted to terminate, but kept canceling, and eventually told us she wanted to give her up for adoption. But 5 months into the pregnancy, when she was discussing with a social worker a couple to adopt, the couple dropped out of the adoption. After trying to find more couples, Sarah asked us if we wanted to adopt. Me and Rose were both 38 at this point, and we had both been discussing having another child, so we ended up adopting our daughter Ellie when Sarah had her at 16. 2 years after Ellie, me and my wife had our son Logan 13 biologically. Growing up, We always planned on telling Ellie she was adopted. But we knew that to tell her that, we had to tell her Sarah was her biological mother. Sarah never became close with Ellie, not even as siblings. She moved out after the birth and lived with Rose's sister. She has always shown sisterly love to her Logan, but never towards Ellie. There have always been conflicting feelings towards Sarah. I have seen posts on Sarah's Instagram where she posted a picture of what was supposed to be the 5 of us, but Ellie was cut out. I confronted her about this, and she said it was too painful. However, a couple years ago, she showed up drunk, begging us to let us see her daughter. We talked to her and let her stay. But we did not let her near Ellie since she was drunk. We found out from her husband that she had suffered several miscarriages and was told to consider a surrogate. She ended up doing that 4 years ago and has since had twins, Jack and Jill 3M and F, who are biologically hers. Ellie has loved being an aunt to the twins, and Sarah has encouraged this with Ellie and has been inviting Ellie over to her house for family time with Logan, who loves being an uncle. We have asked Sarah that, in light of the twins and Ellie being close to them, wouldn't it be time to tell Ellie the truth? But Sarah keeps claiming she is not ready. Recently, Ellie came to us and told us she was pregnant. This time, it is a completely different situation. We have met the father. He is a childhood friend of hers, and they decided they wanted to lose their virginities to each other. We had the talk with Ellie long ago, as we did with Sarah. We approached the situation calmly and have since met with the father and his parents. Ellie is insistent on keeping the baby. She is 3 months along. We have not told Sarah yet. We do not know how to approach the situation, and we do not know how she will be able to take it. Me and my wife are considering telling Ellie the truth, but we need Sarah to be there. Relevant comments from the OP. On to do. Did you ever consider Sarah was Sayed? And that's why she never told you about the father, wanted to terminate, and is incredibly distant from her daughter because she is the offspring of the attacker. Just a passing thought. OP, yes, she has never said anything, but we have always suspected that is what happened. Her therapist would be the only person who knows, but whatever is said stays between them. Line oven. Please discuss contraception with your son if you haven't already. Also, why is her being pregnant a nudge to tell her she is your other daughter's biological child? Wouldn't that be a bit much just this second? OP. Yeah, we might hold off on telling her, but at the same time, we don't know how Sarah will react to finding out Ellie is pregnant. We have had the talk with all 3 of our children about contraception. They didn't want to use protection the first time and thought being careful would not risk pregnancy. Transportation Fund 219. I did think of this right away. I wonder what will happen when one of them does an off-the-shelf DNA test. It will probably happen at some point. OP. I would not do a DNA test without Ellie knowing anything, because if Sarah was assaulted, I would not want him around Ellie. Update. So I decided to write an update, as I'm still getting messages on this account. First, I want to address the main issue. I was wondering about advice on what to do after finding out that my daughter Ellie 15 is pregnant, but that we had the exact same situation with her older sister Sarah 31, who is actually Ellie's biological mother. Well, I decided to just focus on helping out Ellie, who is 4 months pregnant. We didn't want to stress her out by telling her about the adoption yet. In fact, we know we should have already told her a long time ago. Despite Sarah's emotions on the matter, it's not like we even knew the details about Ellie's father, so that would have been Sarah's talk. But we as Ellie's parents still should have told her the truth when she was younger. A week after I made the post, Ellie told her family about the pregnancy. She had since told my parents, her boyfriend's grandparents, and then of course Sarah. Sarah didn't react well, but she told her she would support her. Of course Sarah reached out to us after very upset, but said she was ready to talk to Ellie, first about the adoption with us, and she said that she wanted to tell Ellie about her father alone. We sat down and had a discussion. Ellie was of course upset, but calmed down after a while. She of course had questions about her father. Sarah had that discussion with her. At the time, I didn't know what she was told, and it was none of our business, but Ellie told us she knew who he was and said she didn't want to reach out, so we moved on after that. The other day, I got a call from my sister-in-law, Renee 31F, my brother's wife. She was angry and was asking what kind of sick ideas Sarah was putting in Ellie's head. She started mentioning stuff about Ellie's adoption, so after I got her to calm down, she told me what happened. She claimed that Ellie had messaged my brother Ethan 32 and told him about the adoption and wanted to talk to him. This confused me because me and Ethan don't talk much. We were never really close because we are 21 years apart. He was my mother's late child, and he always got along with mine and our sister's kids, as they were all around the same age. And Ellie only saw him on the holidays, so telling him about the details of her life didn't make sense. Renee explained to me that Ellie claimed that Ethan was her father, because that is what Sarah had told her, and told him that he was going to be a grandpa. I had to sit down for a while. I called Sarah, and we had a long conversation. She told me that yes, it was true that Ethan is Ellie's biological father. Sarah and Ethan were close when they were young. They were only 8 months apart. Sarah says that when they went through puberty, feelings changed, and that every time she went to her grandmother's, they would hide away from everyone and have their own time. Sarah was upset talking about this, but she told me that he never assaulted her, and that it was always consensual. She never wanted to tell me because she was ashamed of the fact that the father of her baby was her uncle. I have since talked to Ethan as well. He denied it to Ellie over text, but told me that it was true. We exchanged a few words back and forth. Even if this was consensual, how could he sleep with his own niece? He had all these, but I wasn't hearing them. He knew of the pregnancy and being Ellie's father the whole time, and he never even bothered to step up to say anything. I have talked to Ellie about it. She says she was upset when she found out, but she always thought she looked like my stepdad's side of the family. It upset me when she mentioned that, because honestly, I see it. It's pretty obvious now. I always knew that Ellie favored whoever her father was because she didn't look like anyone on our side, but I never suspected Ethan. My mother and stepdad have found out, and Ethan told Renee it was true. She is left with their kids to stay with her family. Ethan has tried to reach out to Ellie now, but I don't want her speaking to him. I'm still her father, and I don't think she is safe being in touch with him. Ellie has shown no interest in talking. I asked her why she reached out to him before talking to Sarah or us about it, and she said she just wanted to know his side of the story, but feels betrayed for being lied to. Relevant comments. The commentator asks about the family tree to clarify relationships. OP, I apologize. The reason I was so specific about it is because it's the reason we have always been distant. My father died when I was 20, and we were all devastated. My mother was as well, but she told us months after my father died she was pregnant by a coworker. They married 3 months before Ethan was born. Although we are distant, I'm the closest sibling who communicates, and none of my sisters have anything to do with him. Gracie. Sarah should have fessed up at the start. Did Ethan know Ellie was his when she was adopted? Surely it was no surprise. How could he go 15 years living a lie? Sarah too. This is so messed up. OP, Ethan knew about being the father of Sarah's baby. He wanted Sarah to abort, which is why she wanted to abort in the beginning. But she decided on adoption. Crypto Gambler 952. Maybe it's time that your older daughter do for her daughter what you did for her. OP, Ellie and her boyfriend fully intend on raising this baby as their own, with the support of me, my wife, and his parents. Third story. OP humiliated and shattered my girlfriend's confidence. My girlfriend 25F and I 26 moved in together last year. We live in a fairly safe neighborhood, but during the night, there are some sketchy drunk men hanging around who also scare me quite honestly. My girlfriend, however, wasn't really scared to walk alone at night, and would say that she's just as strong as those men and can take care of herself. My GF is 5'10", and works out 2 times a week. She's indeed very strong compared to most women, but she was obviously delusional to think that her strength was comparable to that of an average man. She would even go as far as saying that if someone should be worried about walking alone at night, then it should be me, as I'm a scrawny 5'9" man. I thought this was one of the situations where it would be better to just shut up than be correct, so I mostly stopped showing my concerns to her. Yesterday, she went out with some of her friends, and told me at 1 a.m. that she'd come alone via public transportation. She doesn't have a license. I told her that it's dangerous, and I should come pick her up, but she insisted on coming by herself. I couldn't sleep till she came home an hour later. She was so angry at me for not trusting her that she could take care of herself. That was when I decided to demonstrate to her the disparity between the strength of men and women. She thought I was joking at first, but when she realized that I was dead serious, she happily took the opportunity to prove how wrong I was. I basically told her to ground me as hard as she could, and then I quickly got out of her grip and grounded her for several minutes till she surrendered. She cried a lot throughout this whole time, and I could also see the fear in her eyes, even though she knew very well that I would never hurt her. I humiliated her. I slept on the couch that night. She didn't want to talk about it in the morning, and said that she's fine. But she's still obviously very upset about it. I feel horrible that I've shattered her confidence like that, and I don't think she will ever feel safe walking alone at night again. I'm probably a really horrible person for doing that, and I wish I could have just trusted her more to take care of herself. I know this relationship is probably over, but is there anything I could do to make up for it? TLDR. I demonstrated to my girlfriend the disparity between the strengths of men and women while trying to teach her a lesson. I humiliated and shattered her confidence in the process, and I feel terrible for what I did. Can I do something to make up for it? Edit. I can't possibly answer all of your comments. I admit that what I did was an assault. I can't express how sorry I am for doing that. I thought I was doing the right thing, but instead I assaulted her by trying to prevent exactly that. Don't learn from me, but please keep yourself safe out there. If not for you, then for the ones who love you. Top comments. Doomer Earl. My girlfriend thought she was tough enough to defend herself, so I assaulted her. You didn't shatter her confidence, buddy. You engaged in domestic violence. Rototingranama. The F did I just read? You harmed and terrified your girlfriend to win an argument. Protopit Phantom. The problem is that you proved your point, and then took it too far. You shouldn't have made her cry. In fact, you only needed to show her she couldn't hold you down. You need some self-reflection. Update. It's been 2.5 months since my original post, and I thought it'd be appropriate to give you an update after some recent events. I actually already tried to do an update a few days later, but I was such a reek mentally and deleted it shortly after, so I'll get straight to the point. She broke up with me the next day over the phone. She wanted me to admit that I enjoyed seeing her cry, but I kept defending myself till she gave up. But deep down, I knew that she was right. I'm not ashamed to say now that I was a bit aroused by overpowering her so easily and seeing her cry. I know how horrible it sounds, and I'm definitely not proud of it, but I think that acknowledging my flaws and being open about them is the first step in overcoming them. The next few days after the breakup were probably some of the worst days of my life. I thought that I'd lost everything, including my self-respect. I decided to go to therapy and take a break from dating for the foreseeable future. Luckily, I also had the support of my family and close friends, even if they didn't fully agree with my actions. For those of you who say that she needed a reality check, I have to disagree with you on this one. Yes, she overestimated her strength, but she's not dumb enough to actually engage in a fight with a stranger, let alone a drunk man. Being cautious has nothing to do with strength, and now I believe that she was also right to get a bit mad at me for having little to no faith in her. Trying to demonstrate how much stronger I was at 2 a.m. was just plain stupid though. I haven't heard from my ex since she gave me a call 2 days ago. We barely talked about the incident though. It was mostly just catching up and making peace with each other. She's doing pretty well actually. She's about to graduate with her master's and already has a job lined up. She started dating a new guy last month, and I can tell by the way she talked that she's very into him. She signed up for a swing class, which is something that she wanted to do for the longest time, but didn't do because of me, which is also where she met her new boyfriend. What she didn't do, however, was sign up for a self-defense class. which, honestly, I kind of expected. Overall, I was glad to hear how happy she sounded. I'm also doing pretty well myself, although I'm still on my break from dating, and I don't see myself getting into another relationship for at least a year. Last month, I also got to experience how my ex felt when I was overly worried for her safety. I went with my family on a trip to Naples, and while we had our apartment in a fairly safe part of the city, it was just a few blocks away from some sketchy alleys during the night. So when I craved for a good pizza in a specific place during one of the nights there, my mom got very vocal about not wanting me to go to that place because of how sketchy some of the alleys looked. I tried to convince her that she had nothing to worry about, but to no avail. And then it dawned on me that this is probably how my ex felt when I expressed my concerns to her. Eventually, I decided to go to that place the next day during the day instead. It was definitely worth it though. I'm genuinely happy with how things went for both of us, although I still miss her sometimes, and hearing her voice again just made me miss her even more. But I know that it'd probably be better for us to just move on with our lives separately. I also plan to continue with my therapy sessions, even though I feel completely fine now. The reason is very simple. It's just to have someone that I can talk to without feeling judged. Reddit isn't really the best place for that, as you could probably tell from my original post, but I still want to thank everyone who commented and gave their opinion. Top comments. Comfortable Yam 5 Theme 561. I was a bit aroused by overpowering her so easily and seeing her cry. That's a hectic statement to make, dude. I'm at a loss for words. Definitely, seeing a therapist for those types of dark thoughts is a good idea. Immortal Jill. I'm very glad she broke up with you. You are 26 years old, and you took your girlfriend to the ground. I would have sent my uncles after you after that, TBH. The fact that you admit you were aroused by that. This is why we say all men. Women will never be safe with men like you in the world. Thank you for watching the video. If you are interested in listening to these kinds of stories, we've got more in store for you. Simply subscribe to our channel, hit the like button, and share it with your friends.